Hello there, pleasant afternoon to you wherever you're joining us from. This is Election Focus, your one-stop platform for comprehensive political analysis. My name is Koku Alormasor, and this afternoon I have my guests or colleagues, any of them is appropriate. They are seated here with me. We shall be looking at a lot of issues. It's 82 days until Ghanaians exercise one of their most fundamental democratic rights, the right to vote. And of course, Election Focus, we shall be bringing you everything that you need to know as far as the 2024 general election is concerned. On Mondays, we shall be looking at party manifestos. We do know for a fact that the various political parties, the National Democratic Congress, the Movement for Change, the New Patriotic Party, the New Force, they all have come out with their various manifestos. These are policy documents that spell out what these parties intend to do when they assume office, or when any of them assumes office on January 7, 2025. On Tuesdays, we shall be looking at the strongholds of the various constituencies. Let me also mention that if you're not aware, now we have 276 constituencies, because SAL, that is Central Kofi, Akpafu, Likpe, and Lolobi, it has now been officially recognized as the Guan constituency. So 276 constituencies. We shall be looking at the strongholds, and that we shall be doing on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we'll be having community engagement. We give the citizenry or the people the opportunity to also share their thoughts on various issues plaguing them, issues in relation to abandoned projects. We shall be looking at that. So that's generally going to be a documentary that we shall be bringing you every Wednesday here on Election Focus. Now, on Thursdays, we shall be looking at the constituencies that could potentially tip the scale, you know, the swing constituencies, where we do know for a fact that not one political party has a hold or a stronghold of these constituencies. We shall be looking at that. There are a number of examples of them, which, for instance, the Utu Senya West, we do know for a fact that is a swing constituency. You look at the Lejokuku constituency, another swing constituency. There are lots of them, there are scores of them, and they are going to be extremely pivotal in determining who comes up top, especially when it comes to Parliament in 2025. On Fridays, we shall be looking at the campaign trails of the various political parties. We do know for a fact that as we speak, the National Democratic Congress's flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama, is on a campaign tour of the Greater Accra region, visiting some constituencies. The New Patriotic Party isn't any different, or aren't any different. They are also visiting some constituencies to preach their manifestos to the people, to see if they can convince them to vote for them. We shall also be looking at other political parties. We know that for some of them, campaign hasn't really started, but hopefully very soon their campaign would also gain some form of momentum. This afternoon, I've been joined by Mamiama Pratt. Mamiama Pratt hosts The Couch here on Pan-African Television.
Hello,
a different address came into mind, but
don't try it.
I'm going to leave that behind.
Good choice.
But it's always a pleasure to have you on any form of conversation. We've been on The Couch several times. I've encountered you on the book review segment, which I haven't been on for some time now. I do miss it. I'm sure you do too.
Yes.
The viewers do as well. But it's always a pleasure to have you on any show at all, any show.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Bless.
Right. So Justice Appiah is also the head of news here at Pan-African Television. He doubles as the host of your favorite evening political program, Hot News. Justice.
Hi, Bless.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You're fine?
I'm doing well.
Great.
We are here again.
Right. Gregory Amwa is our parliamentary correspondent. He brings us stories from the legislative arm of government, and there's something that he does so well. And I'm sure everybody who watches Pan-African Television can attest to that. Greg, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, bro.
I trust you're fine.
Helen Haiti.
Great. So without further ado, there are a number of issues that we have tabled for today's discussion. Like I earlier told you, on Mondays, we shall be focusing on the various manifestos of these political parties. So today we shall be looking specifically at health. But before we go into the health issues, there's a raging conversation, there's a raging issue that is in itself a health problem. That is in itself posing already a major health risk to the Ghanaian people, Galamsey for that matter. We do know for a fact that the Ghana Water Company Limited, GWCL, they have come out to say that their production capacity has reduced by 30%, so from 70 to 40%. And of course, this is cause for worry for every Ghanaian. When you go to places like the Central Region, there are people there who can't access potable drinking water. What is the cause? Of course, Galamsey. You look at our rivers, River Pra and Cobra and Co. Their colors have changed. We do know that water is supposed to be colorless, odorless, tasteless. Now, these rivers actually do have color. They do have taste. They do have odor. They do have smell. So these are some of the issues, the region issues that this canker, Galamsey for that matter, has caused. Now, the latest with regards to this issue is that the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, he has formed a 5-member ad hoc committee to look at this matter. The question that I'm asking, and of course every other Ghanaian is also asking, is that to what end? This isn't the first time that a committee has been formed to investigate the excesses of Galamsey. We do know for a fact that the Professor Frimpong Boateng report brought out a lot of startling revelations which has not been followed through. So for this particular committee, the question is, to what end? Well, maybe my guest here can help me answer this question. Mariam, I'm going to start with you.
Yes, bless. So just to greet our viewers and to, sort of alert them that Pan-African TV is ready and able to get into the election.
Yeah.
That we are excited to come their way every day, every afternoon, also in the evenings, that we are poised and excited and able, I like the able, to analyze, all of the issues that would come up, and even the ones that won't come up as we get ready, to get into the elections. And to remind our viewers that this would be the place, to watch for all of the information that you need. Galamsey, not a new problem. For me, it's the intensity for which it's reared its head again. You are looking at a situation where the Ghana Water Authority is threatening, water shortage in the shortest possible time, cause for alarm. That gives me pause instantly, So it's found expression in election focus because, as always, it's been politicized. It's, found some kind of expression in this space. But for me, it's deeper than that. It goes to the heart, of Ghana, the heart of perhaps, so then it should be a political issue. It should be one of those issues for which, as an electorate, I should see my way clear. I should understand from all the political players now what their position is, what they intend to do, and then perhaps that would be an important indicator for me as an electorate where my vote should go. Do I think that the political players are dealing with the issues as well as they should be? Yes and no. To the extent that our current president has said that he has put his presidency on the line for it, it sounds on a superficial level as though he's taking it seriously. But then when you pierce the veil, is that what is happening? So it's more questions, for me than answers. I mean, as at now, I dare say that perhaps he's the one front. Actually, no. What am I saying? He's not a front runner anymore. It's Dr. Baumia. Goodness. Yeah. So I dare say that none of our front runners has sort of been as, and I'm searching for the word. I wanted to say poignant, but I don't think that's vocal. Strong enough for me. I want a strong word. None of them. I think it's Akufo-Addo that was emphatic and put his presidency on the line. It was him. But when you take him out, I don't think that any of the others has come out as strongly as they should, on this Galamsey issue. And I think they should. I think that all of them should let us know exactly what their position on this issue is. We dance around it. When I come, I will do this. They deal with an aspect of the problem. So, for instance, I've heard somebody say, when I come, I would engage with small-scale miners, and we'll see. What does that mean? Engage to what extent? What does that mean, realistically? Because perhaps we don't understand the urgency of this one. We are getting to a point where we will not have water. We won't have water. Excuse me, Charlie. We will not have water. So it's not when I come I will engage. When I come I will check policy. No. What's your position? I need that. For me it's crucial. If we won't have water, then it's not one of those other issues. It's not your position on give me something. It's not remote. It's a pressing issue for which you need to take a pressing position. So perhaps this will be a call that all of our front runners take a critical position on this one. Now, it goes beyond that. It goes beyond the issue of I'm shocked that I'm even saying that. For me, that should have been it. There should be no conversation after that where we have water, shortage. But even beyond that is the health implication. Yeah. And when we talk about health implication for Galamsey, a lot of people think that it's the person that goes and fetches it and drinks it. No, it's the person that lives in a community where you have remnants of chemicals, dangerous chemicals, in the water bodies. They have to inhale it. They have to deal with it. You don't have to fetch it and drink to have exposed yourself to the chemicals. Just being in the vicinity is enough. It's enough, yeah. Just being around cyanide, and mercury, it's enough. Yeah. It's enough danger. So perhaps we need to be more, again, my struggle for the word, when it comes to this issue. We are talking about water shortage. We are talking about health implications, for, I can't even begin to, quantify the communities that are affected. It's far-reaching. We used to think of it in small, isolated places. Now it's everywhere. It's everywhere. People are physically dying from this. We've all seen the videos where women have gone into washrooms and, the washrooms have caved in on them. People are dying. We've seen the videos of fish, what it's doing to our environment. We've seen those videos. We've seen the concerns of health in terms of the babies that are being born and the effect it's having on them. So, I mean, it's an emergency. That's how pressing this is. This is an emergency. This is a national emergency. This is not business as usual. This is not long talk and, policy. No. We've long gone past that stage in this Galamsey conversation. It's a now conversation. Now, right now. What's your position now? When you win on December 7th, what are you going to do to stop this on December 8th? That's for me is the conversation. It's not free SHS where, somebody's going to progressively on. No. This is an urgent one. So that's my position on this one. I hope that our politicians understand how pressing this is. I need to see that urgency reflected in how, this issue is addressed. If I had an opportunity in any of these campaigns, that's what I would ask. If I had an opportunity to sit in any room with any of them, this is what I would, bring to the fore. And I hope that they realize that it's that crucial as we get into December 7th. And then I was going to say this about the future of Ghana. No, this is about the now of Ghana. It's not about the future. It's about the now, right now of Ghana. It's always about the low-hanging fruits, isn't it? This is very low. Let's deal with this, and then we can, move along. Thank you, Bless.
I wanted to find out from you. You made, in your initial submission, when you started talking immediately, you made a point which I very much agree with, that it appears now that that conversation has been revived, it has been resuscitated. But we do know for a fact that it has always been there. What is arousing that form of consciousness to realize that, now it's bad?
Water shortage.
Because it has always been bad.
Water shortage.
People are always dying.
Yes, water shortage. Last week, and we all would attest to this because all of us work here. Actually, from 2 weeks ago, we have not had water.
Yeah.
We haven't had water for 2 weeks. We are buying water. Well, I would know. I'm the one. So, and at a superficial level, we can talk about how expensive it is, but that's not even the conversation. The conversation is about not being able to have water running through your taps. Full stop. Picture that. We talk about water being life. You know, water is life. So, I mean, that's how pressing the issue is. Ghana Water Company says that we are running into a situation where we will not have water as a country. Water shortage.
By 2030.
Okay, so let's look at it this way. Some of us think that, not a problem because perhaps I use borehole, you know, I can. Some of us think along those lines. I mean, I don't want to sound a certain way this afternoon. We are in this together.
Yeah.
When cholera breaks, all of us, when there's an outbreak of any disease, I mean, who cares if you have borehole in your house, or if you can buy bottled water, or if you can buy, it's all of us. We are in this together. It's not even funny, right? But again, like I was saying, and I hate to reiterate and, you know, over emphasize the position, but it has dire health consequences for all of us. And it's not about going to drink the water again. It's not about that. The more we are all exposed to this, all of us are at risk. But beyond that is also fish. It's fish. It's cocoa.
Yeah.
It's coconuts.
Yeah.
It's palm, soap, palm oil. I could go on and on and on. The consequences are far-reaching, and it affects every single one of us. Again, we are in this together. So for me, the reason it has come up strongly, at least for me, would be the water shortage. But then I'm saying that it has far-reaching consequences for everything else. And if we don't all gather around this one, I don't know what else. If water is not that unifying issue that can have us dropping our partisanship, then I don't know what other issue
would be enough to
would unify us as a people. So for me, people are saying, let's not, you know, politicize this one too. Okay, to the extent that we drop our partisanship and look for a solution, yes. But to the extent that we demand accountability from, then absolutely let's politicize this one. Absolutely. For me, it's a major issue that should determine.
I wanted to ask you again, how do we drop our partisanship in this, especially when you have political figureheads being neck deep in this canker? They are the ones at the forefront. If you look at the people causing the damage,
you mean the Wunsimis and the Koku
exactly
that have been fingered
exactly
to be?
I mean, they are causing the lion's share of the problem. If you look at it, actually,
I remember being on one of these TV. It must have been. One of these TV stations, and then, you know, there were a few newspapers that had published, and I mentioned to me some other personalities within, you know, government who had their hands deep in the cookie jar, you know, with Galams. And I remember saying that we don't need the president to give up his presidency.
yeah.
Because in one of the pictures, he had been framed with Wuntumi on his left, and then somebody, and I was like, well, talk to him. He's sitting right. He's sitting right next to you. Like, talk to him, and let's get it. You know, let's move along. It's not deep. It's that it can be that light. So yeah, I mean, we keep being told of functionaries, not all of them are government appointees. Some of them are just functionaries. We keep being told about functionaries that are involved, in this menace. And so for me, again, it's not enough to say that I put my presidency on the line when people that are just a phone call away from you are constantly being named and constantly being figured. Let's show leadership. Every problem we have in Ghana starts and stops at leadership. That's it. Let's show leadership. Let's show a genuine concern for resolving some of these issues. I think once we do that, we won't have a problem. But then it comes back to us as electorates, right? If we don't put our partisanship aside at some point, and for me this would be like a fine line, we won't make a headway. If you are going to vote just because you are MPP, you are going to vote just because you are NDC, then we will never make progress. It gets to a point in the life of any people where you have to draw the line somewhere. And if water is not one of those points, I don't know what else. I don't know.
Right, thank you very much, Ama. If you're just joining us, this is Election Focus, the very first edition, 82 days more to election 2024. We are bringing you a comprehensive analysis for what to expect as far as the entire election is concerned. We are looking at the party manifestos, we are looking at strongholds, we are having community engagements, we are looking at the swing constituencies as well as the campaign trails of the various political parties. Currently, we are talking about a canker, a menace, Galamsey for that matter, that has eaten deep into our rivers, our environment, and causing a lot of havoc. Now let me turn my attention to Justice Appiah. For me personally, I think we are in a hopeless situation. A hopeless situation in the sense that, look, the very people who have the solution to these problems are the ones leading it. They are the ones leading the charge. Because they'll tell you that the party needs money. And of course, we know that Galamsey is a lucrative venture. We can talk about its excesses, but being lucrative, we all know about that. So we have people who are supposed to fight it, and they are fighting it supposedly, and we are the ones bearing the brunt. It appears that they are remote from the places where the Galamsey is happening. So all the party functionaries, those at the top, they are here in Accra, and somewhere in the villages, the Galamsey is ongoing. So what then has to happen before they realize that no, it has reached its tipping point and we ought to do something about it?
Right, perhaps when we start importing water, that is when they will get to know that the situation is there and that there's a need for something to be done about it. But let me start it this way. I think that policymakers lack the commitment and dedication in fighting this menace.
And it is intentional.
Yes, it is. It is intentional because they have their own, neck deep in this problem. And so for that reason, they lack the political will to tackle the matter head on. This is because we saw the formation of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. What has been the outcome? In fact, there was a report on that. Professor Frimpong Boateng came out with a report. The report was actually swept under the carpet. It was shelved until it was even leaked before Professor Frimpong Boateng was invited by the OSP to come and answer some few questions. After his invitation, what has happened? Nothing. And I'll come to Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. But we also saw the secretary to the committee caught on video by a nurse accepting some monies, all in the name of, accepting bribes allegedly, in order to allow, people who are involved in Galamsey to continue with their activities. I don't know if he was investigated, but what I do know is that that position was taken away from him. But after that position was taken away from Charles Bessiu, he's been given another at the Flagstaff House.
In fact, He's a PC today.
Yes, he's a PC today.
Esika Loketan.
So clearly it tells you that politicians do not have the will to fight this problem. And it's not just about the current dispensation. Because if you read Professor Frimpong Boateng's report, a portion of the report also captured some members of the National Democratic Congress who are also doing galamsey. I recall that ahead of the 2020 election, you had political figures, political actors from the National Democratic Congress moving from one galamsey site to the other, promising the galamseyers that they would allow them to do their galamsey if they were voted for in the 2020 election. Unfortunately, we didn't see that happen. But if you like, do your research and see. NDC won the 2020 election heavily at some of the galamsey areas. So it tells you that it would be very difficult for any political party in power to say that I'm tackling this issue once and for all. They know what to do. They know what to do. Now, I have Professor Frimpong Boateng's report over here. And the reason why I think that the ad hoc ministerial committee to engage stakeholders on illegal mining is nothing but one of those committees that were formed and it yielded no result. This one would also not yield any result.
It's a facade.
It's a facade. If you ask me, it would not yield any result. Because this is not the time to be, putting committees together. This is the time to be looking for what to be done now. People are calling on the president to declare a state of emergency in order to have this issue stopped. Like all mining concessions that were given, community mining, persons who are doing galamsey, they must halt their operations in order for us to find a solution to this matter.
The Lands and Natural Resources Minister came out to say that would be too draconian, and that for me means that we've still not come to the realization of the enormity of harm that it is causing. Because if a state of emergency is going to be declared, and that is going to quickly address the issue, but you're saying that no, that's going to be too harsh, it's going to be too draconian, then it means that you still haven't realized how serious the problem is.
Right. This is Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. And then it talks about challenges. I'll take it from challenges. Most members of the Interministerial Committee abandoned the committee, a committee that was set up to deal with the matter. Members of the committee abandoned the committee. How do you expect us to be able to fight this? If members of the committee, people who are to ensure that decisions are taken in order to have, this issue tackled, are not even, discharging their duties effectively. In fact, they abandoned. If they were not discharging their duties effectively, at least that would have made sense. They abandoned the committee. Apart from the Minister for Sanitation and Local Government and Rural Development, all the others abandoned the committee. To make matters worse, the chairman was personally attacked, vilified, and framed for things he had not done. Such assaults came from many people, including some of the ministers who effectively left the committee. That was the extent to which they treated the Interministerial Committee on illegal mining. Now, apart from that, I would want us to go to some unwholesome behavior of some MPs and government appointees. It is on record that the activities of some senior members of the MPP accounted for the anger of community levels. At community levels. Honorable Joseph Albert Kwam, the former MP for Manso Nkwanta, exemplifies such individuals. This is a member of parliament for the Manso Nkwanta constituency in the Ashanti region, and at the same time members of the board of the Minerals Commission. He used his position as a member of the Minerals Commission to acquire several dozens of large-scale concessions in his district. Several dozens, in his district. He ended up selling these concessions to private individuals, including party members, for 200,000 cedis per concession. This infuriated the party in the constituency, so doing the 2020 primaries to select a candidate the electorate voted against. So this is a former member of parliament. He went ahead and mentioned some other government officials. I learned the likes of Untumi and all those people were mentioned in that report. These are people who are very close to power. They are close to the president. So why is the president not just advising them or asking them to stop their operations? And so if you have the president, if you have his ministers, especially the minister in charge of the sector, who should be putting in measures, very strict measures to end the situation, and have rather decided to come out with this. How do we see an end to this? Have you recently seen the kind of water flowing through the taps of, you know, some people? I was surfing the internet and I saw somebody opened his pipe. You'll be shocked.
Mad.
You'll be shocked. So it has gotten to the point where already we are having the contaminated water flowing through our taps at home.
Yeah.
You go to mining areas.
Even the clear water.
Yeah, even the clear water.
You go to mining areas, and now women are giving birth. They are having children with deformity. That is the extent to which galamsey is affecting us as human beings. And they know. These reports are out day in, day out. Erastus Asaridonko of Joy. I mean, he did several reports on how children born at these mining areas are having various forms of deformities. What are we doing about it? What are we doing about it? So for me, I think that duty bearers or policy makers have the solution to the problem, except that they are not ready to ensure or to put in measures that will end the menace. And for me, if the MPP leaves and the NDC also comes, I'm not sure we will see any significant improvement in the matter. This is because they are also not telling us what specifically they would do to end this galamsey issue. Should they be given the nod in 2024? I'm sad as a Ghanaian, and I don't know how we get out of this situation anytime soon.
I was privileged to have been in a meeting with the former president and small-scale miners. So they had a conversation in relation to illegal mining and how to make it safe. When it came to the water bodies, I can say for a fact here that when it came to our rivers, it was inconclusive on that day. I remember it was inconclusive, and so they are going to sit again and then have a conversation on it. But sincerely, because there wasn't any straightforward approach that this is what we are going to do when it comes to illegal mining on our rivers. I think on land they gave some, things that they are going to do. Some suggested, remedies and all of that, which made sense. But when it came to our rivers,
But it can be done.
when it came to our
It was
rivers,
done for the what's it called? The just ended, global sporting activity. What was that? Help me out, guys. You know sports, I don't.
is it the Olympics?
Yes. Yes, they cleared some water bodies to make way for swimming. If we can do that for swimming, why can't we do that for?
Even for them, I think it was a sewage, a major
Right.
one. They had to.
Right,
Yes.
right. So I think that we can
Yeah.
We can clear our water bodies if we want to. But of course, it should start from stopping the galamsey.
You are getting me wrong. It's not even about clearing it. So it's not about clearing. It's not even about clearing or stopping it. It's about how they will do it. It's about how they will still continue with it. But then there wouldn't be so much of an impact. You understand?
That should be a clear-cut policy. And quickly, you see, President Kufuor, it wasn't as if he did nothing about the situation. At a point, he promised to put his presidency on the line. I personally believe that by now, he should have resigned as the president of a country. But that put aside, he came out with the Operation Vanguard. There was something on Galam Stop and all those things. And I feel that those were all measures tilted towards, ending galamsey. But how did that end up? Professor Frimpong Boateng had something to say in here. Operation Vanguard, that consisted of men from the army and police service, was charged with controlling illegal activities at the mining centers. When the soldiers were withdrawn from Operation Vanguard on 16th March 2019 due to complaints by small-scale miners, mainly from the MPP stock, the police detachment took over the entire Operation Vanguard. That is when things deteriorated. There were consistent reports that the police developed the habit of going around the mining sites, extorting money from miners. As can be imagined, there were policemen who were NDC sympathizers, and such individuals taunted the miners, telling them, "We were sent by the government you voted for." Such things did not go well with MPP sympathizers and voters.
Oh, interesting.
So this was a measure. In fact, it was a measure put in place to help fight the galamsey menace. How did that end?
Right. Yeah, we are still here on election focus. We are having conversations in relation to galamsey. There's still so much more to discuss. Gregory Amor hasn't shared his thoughts yet. But let's go for a short break. We return. Let me say that Mamiama is taking leave of us. Unfortunately, she has other things to attend to, or too much detail. Too much detail. Let's go for a short. So much more to stay.
Consequences are dire. It has severely impacted social structures in rural communities. Farmers have abandoned their farmlands in search of quick wealth, and entire villages have become mining hubs. This rush for gold has led to a surge in crime, child labor, and school dropouts, with young people trading their education for mining activities. Traditional leaders tasked with protecting the land are often caught in the web of galamsey, either complicit or unable to stop it due to external pressures. The health risks posed by galamsey cannot be overlooked. Toxic chemicals such as mercury and cyanide used in processing gold seep into rivers and water bodies, contaminating drinking water sources. Residents in mining areas are at high risk of developing chronic illnesses like mercury poisoning, kidney failure, and various respiratory issues. Healthcare facilities in these regions are ill-equipped to deal with the surge in patients, leaving many untreated and vulnerable. Additionally, miners themselves are exposed to hazardous working conditions. Many operate in unregulated and unsafe environments, leading to frequent accidents, injuries, and even death. The collapse of mining pits is a regular occurrence, claiming lives and worsening the health crisis in these communities. Economically, galamsey creates a paradox. On the one hand, it generates short-term income for miners and boosts local economies. However, it significantly undermines the formal mining industry, depriving the state of revenue from regulated mining operations. The destruction of arable land and water bodies also hampers agricultural production, a vital component of Ghana's economy. This has led to food insecurity in some regions, with long-term repercussions for national development. efforts to combat it have been met with mixed results. The government's attempts at regularizing small-scale mining and enforcing mining laws have been fraught with corruption and lack of political will. Task forces deployed to curtail illegal mining operations are often compromised, and arrested offenders frequently return to mining after minimal punitive measures. As Galamsey continues to devastate communities and strain national resources, a sustainable solution is urgently needed. While immediate interventions may focus on stricter enforcement and regulation, long-term solution must address the root causes: poverty, lack of education, and weak infrastructural oversight. Despite numerous government interventions, the practice persists, leaving behind a trail of devastation that affects communities, public health, and the economy. For Ghana to reclaim its lands, water bodies, and economy, decisive action must be taken, and all stakeholders must be held accountable in the fight against this scourge. In the past decade, Galamsey has grown into a social menace, ravaging vast landscapes across the country. While the activity offers immediate financial rewards for many impoverished citizens, the long-term consequences are dire. It has severely impacted social structures in rural communities. Farmers have abandoned their farmlands in search of quick wealth, and entire villages have become mining hubs. This rush for gold has led to a surge in crime, child labor, and school dropouts, with young people trading their education for mining activities. Traditional leaders tasked with protecting the land are often caught in the web of Galamsey, either complicit or unable to stop it due to external pressures. The health risks posed by Galamsey cannot be overlooked. Toxic chemicals such as mercury and cyanide used in processing gold seep into rivers and water bodies, contaminating drinking water sources. Residents in mining areas are at high risk of developing chronic illnesses like mercury poisoning, kidney failure, and various respiratory issues. Healthcare facilities in these regions are ill-equipped to deal with the surge in patients, leaving many untreated. In the past decade, Galamsey has grown into a social menace, ravaging vast landscapes across the country. While the activity offers immediate financial rewards for many impoverished citizens, the long-term consequences are dire. It has severely impacted social structures in rural communities. Farmers have abandoned their farmlands in search of quick wealth, and entire villages have become mining hubs. This rush for gold has led to a surge in crime, child labor, and school dropouts, with young people trading their education for mining activities. Traditional leaders tasked with protecting the land are often caught in the web of Galamsey, either complicit or unable to stop it due to external pressures. The health risks posed by Galamsey cannot be overlooked. Toxic chemicals such as mercury and cyanide used in processing gold seep into rivers and water bodies, contaminating drinking water sources. Residents in mining areas are at high risk of developing chronic illnesses like mercury poisoning, kidney failure, and various respiratory issues. Healthcare facilities in these regions are ill-equipped to deal with the surge in patients, leaving many untreated and vulnerable. Additionally, miners themselves are exposed to hazardous working conditions. Many operate in unregulated and unsafe environments, leading to frequent accidents, injuries, and even death. The collapse of mining pits is a regular occurrence, claiming lives and worsening the health crisis in these communities. Economically, Galamsey creates a paradox. On the one hand, it generates short-term income for miners and boosts local economies. However, it significantly undermines the formal mining industry.
Right, welcome back. It's still election focus right here on Pan African TV with yours sincerely, Koku Alormasor. Before that break, Justice Appiah had made a point about that inter-ministerial committee on illegal mining that was tasked to probe the issues. They came out with a report that was shelved. Another committee has been constituted by the president, a 5-member committee this time around. To what end? That is the question that I've been asking my guests here on the show. But Ruben Ado is one of our editors here at Pan African Television. Ruben, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I trust you're fine.
Absolutely.
Great. So I would now turn my attention to Gregory Amoah, who would also share his thoughts with us on this issue. I told you in the beginning, Greg is our parliamentary correspondent. And a lot has been happening in the Legislative House in relation to this issue. I'm sure the parliamentarians have spoken about it ad nauseum. Time and again, they've had cause to speak on this issue. What has been the case so far as illegal mining is concerned? And what has been the thoughts generally of parliamentarians? I'd want us to look at it from that angle. But before I even come to Greg, isn't it interesting that since 1992, the total number of concessions that have been given out to people to mine, 56. But since 2017, a whopping 1,512 concessions have been given to people to mine in various places across the country. Very, very interesting. Now, let me turn my attention to Gregory Amoah.
Bless. Good afternoon once again to our viewers and all those watching us from all parts of the world. The illegal mining conversation in Parliament, I would say, has been quite an unfortunate one. Because every time the conversation comes up for debate, where it is expected that members of the House would, bring to the fore their expertise and also their experiences from the local areas to the floor, so that a national decision can be arrived at, it tends to become more or less a tussle between both parties. Who did it more, who did it less, and all that. Now, just I think about a fortnight ago, the House reconvened for an extraordinary meeting where, amongst other things, some members felt it was needful for the House to forge ahead in a new plan to deal with the menace, because it seems like since 2018 there has been plan after plan, but these plans keep faltering. The defense minister was he rose up to speak, and he's the minister in charge of the armed forces. he has supervision over them. And so it was expected that he would give confidence as to measures being taken to deal with this menace. And he was playing hide and seek. I mean, he was saying that it's a political issue and then the House should, sanction members of the parties who, on their campaign, try to empower people to engage in the action. Right?
That was the angle from which he attacked.
Yes, and that was I felt it was unfortunate because as the minister with direct oversight over the armed forces, you should be better placed than anybody to tell us what you have been able to achieve so far, and in the course of doing that, proffer additional solutions. But he rose up and gave, and so this also led to a counter by the other side of the house, and I'm sure you heard it when that comment came up. That led to the chief whip of the house, who is the MP for Ensawam Adueji, the Honorable Frank Anadompe, saying that the NDC polluted the water more than the NPP. I mean, it's sad, and I've heard Jay's how Jay addressed this. I've heard Mami Amaprat's comments on this issue. I strongly believe that there has been a leadership failure in tackling this menace. Now, for the purposes of our viewers, I would like to read to them the roadmap thus far, ever since this government assumed power in 2017. Now, in January 2017, during the inaugural speech of President Akufo-Addo, he promised that one of the key things he would do is to sanitize the small-scale mining industry to ensure that this canker is dealt with. And then subsequently there was a ban on small-scale mining. About 3 months later, the IMCM, as Jay said, was instituted, led by Professor Frimpong Boateng, to deal with this. Now, I think they had a threefold mandate. One, they were supposed to implement the ban, to ensure that the ban was being implemented, and also to come up with a roadmap to ensure that the ban will be lifted at this point in time. And when the ban is lifted, we would have sanitized the sector to ensure that even if small-scale mining activities will be going on, it will not endanger the land resources and other things that we have. Now, it was at the inauguration of this committee that the president made that infamous promise that he put his presidency on the line. And every Ghanaian listening to that address, I think it inspired confidence, especially when it was very early days in the presidency and everyone had some confidence that this will be dealt with. Now, away from that, in 2017, April, there was a further coalition by media men led by Ken Ashibe to pressure government to follow through on its promise of instituting the IMCIM and then dealing with this menace. And as a result of this pressure, Operation Vanguard was formed. Now, Operation Vanguard was an amalgamation of the police service and the military, and then their work was to be predominant in 3 regions that had been heavily affected by this menace: the Ashanti region, the Eastern region, and then the Western region. And that's why I respectfully also disagree with persons who agree with the school of thought that the NPP, the vote of that the party dwindled because of Galamsey, because the party still won heavily in the Ashanti region. There I say that Nana Akufo-Addo won that election mainly because of the vote margin he achieved in the Ashanti region. They won in the Western region, and then they won in the Eastern region. Now, these were 3 regions in which Vanguard was predominant. Now, their mandate was to roam in these regions, because these were the regions that were rife with the Galamsey activities. Now, about 5 months after this operation was formed, the then leader of that team, I think Omane J. Ruben, I don't know if I'm right. He led that vanguard.
It used to be Colonel William J. Pong.
Yeah, but I think
subsequently was Colonel Jackson Wonje.
Yeah, he came out to say that about 75% of the work of the vanguard was close to being completed, and this was way back in 2017. Now, in August 2018, the IMCIM announced a roadmap for lifting the ban and even embarked on a vetting process of miners who were now going to reapply for, small scale mining concessions. That was in August 2018. And so, if after almost 6 years, we are still back to forming committees, don't you think it's quite rich that after 6 years we formed IMCIM, we formed Vanguard, Galamstop. We've committed significant state resources.
Operation Hall.
And then after 6 years, about 3 months to election, we now come to form an ad hoc committee to do what? What is this committee going to do that Vanguard couldn't do, that IMCIM couldn't do? Now, in the report that you read, it was so damning that it made even aversions, suggesting that the president's house in Achim Ebuakwa was a site for galamsey.
Yes.
To the point where journalists from the presidency had to be bussed to Achim Ebuakwa to ascertain whether or not that was true. Well, when they got there, there were no signs of galamsey. But these were averments not made by any meaner person than the chairperson of the IMCIM himself, a person who had been entrusted with the confidence of government, who had been embedded with fiduciary duties to ensure that the resources of Ghanaians that were being depleted, to their detriment, were rightly appropriated. Now, he came out with such a damning report, and in fact, this report, as Jay said, was not even released. It was shelved. It had to be leaked. Now, bless, in the course of this galamsey issue, there have been some damning issues that I also like to draw the attention of our, viewers to. Now, in March 2019, as Jay said, there was some work by Anas, where the secretary of the committee himself, who today is the parliamentary candidate for Esikado, he was caught on tape allegedly receiving cash, almost I think it's 35k or something. I'm not really sure.
35,000 cedis.
Yes, on account that he was going to help circumvent the rules for some persons who wanted to go into this avenue. Now, also in January 2020, it was revealed again that, in fact, the excavators that were seized by the IMCIM in the course of its duty, in the course of its mandate, 500 of them, they could not be found. Now, one person who was fingered in this damning issue was one Horace Eko-Ewusi. He was once a time vice chair of the NPP, I think, in the central region. Now, when he was arrested and he was crazy, we are told that he said he has only 254 of these excavators, and out of them he was working on the orders of the chairperson of the committee, and he had given almost 101 out. Meanwhile, this accusation was made by the chairperson himself. And so, bless, it is quite rich when we come back after almost 6 years to again form a committee to tackle the same issue and then commit state resources at a time where we are doing DDEP, where pensioners have had to take haircuts on their principal, the principal of their bonds, of their investments. we are going to commit state funds at a time where we are still negotiating with external creditors. We are going to again, appropriate state funds to form a committee to take per diem. We are going to commit state funds to tackle Galamsey. Whilst there have been reports that were sanctioned at the behest of the presidency itself, seeking to tackle this menace. Then after 6 years, we come back again to form another ad hoc committee. What again are we doing?
Right.
Bless. Now, I'll end by giving a few facts. Now, as it stands now, Ghana has a total of 288 reserves, forest reserves. Now, out of this, 34 have been affected by illegal mining. Now, this rounds up to 4,726 hectares of land. Now, let me paint a picture. This is the size of Athens or Brussels. Athens is in Greece.
Greece, yeah. Brussels is in Belgium.
Belgium. Now, this is the land size. This is bigger than Athens or Brussels. So it means Ghana has lost the size of Athens or Brussels as far as the land size is concerned to Galamsey. These are not my words. These are the words of John Alote. He heads Ghana's Forestry Commission. That is how the issue is right now. So it is quite rich when I see some of these comments as to ad hoc committees, 2 months, 3 months, one election. It's quite sad, Bless.
Right, thank you very much, Gregory Amon. You wanted to add something, let it be brief, please.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that Greg said. I think succinctly put. However, I think that there are some few corrections that we need to make.
I knew this would come up,
on which I believe is going to be on whether or not the ruling government lost votes.
Exactly, and then you see, let's take Takwa Nswaim for example. Check the votes of the National Democratic Congress at Takwa Nswaim. If we're talking about Galamsey areas, we are not talking about the entire region. Communities are involved, constituencies are involved. And so you go back and check, the total number of votes the opposition party got at some of these mining areas, not the entire region. And I'm giving you a typical example of Takwa Nswaim. You can check the presidential and the parliamentary. Takwa Nswaim is one of the areas where Galamsey is so prevalent. Galamsey is, people are really doing Galamsey over there. And I said earlier that in order for us to end this problem, there should be, or there must be, some sort of commitment and dedication on the part of the various political parties that are coming to us to vote for them in the upcoming election. So if you have political parties or a political party that was promising Galamseyers, that they should be voted for, and for that reason they would give them back their concessions to do their Galamsey, then you should be worried about that.
I understand you. Right. Thank you very much.
Bless. I think, you see,
we are not going on and on and on.
I agree. But you see,
what we want, I think, are solutions.
I agree.
About the issue. So
I think the essence of that comment that is being peddled, and I'm not attacking you in any way, but I think it's a lazy approach by the government to tell us that they are failing to tackle the menace because they lost votes in that regard. I'm saying that even if you lost votes in those areas, you still won the regions.
Lose the consequences.
Exactly.
And fight
ahead.
But you have,
especially when you told us you are willing to put your presidency on the line.
Now, Justice, you see,
that's the issue.
The back stops with the president.
Yes.
The responsibilities are the doorstep of this administration. So whatever another administration does is inconsequential.
Yes,
what are you doing?
The issue
as somebody
with their beneficial, in fact,
with the power.
Don't forget that we have just 3 months into the election.
Yes.
NDC claims that they are a government in waiting. If you are a government in waiting,
what are
your plans? How do you intend to
should it not also be the case, or can it not also be the case that, look, okay, they are telling the people that, look, I'm going to let you mine do not vote for this party. When you vote for me, I'm going to let you do this and this and that. And then when you eventually vote for them, they come in and they do something different. They stop you from doing that.
That's also possible. I don't see that happening
Because I want to win the election by hook or crook. And if that's one of the ways for me to win it, I'm going to tell you to do it. But when I come to power, I'm going to, regardless of whatever I've told you, I'm still going to fight it.
Let's be honest. As we speak, there are some NDC functionaries waiting for government to change
so that they can also go to Galamsey. Right. We've had enough conversation on this matter.
Know, right?
We'll proceed to other topics. We still to come. We'll be looking at the health sector of the various manifestos. But before that, on 11th September, the Ghanaian community was taken by surprise, me inclusive. And if I say me inclusive, I deputize Kwame Osudanso as far as the newspaper review segment of the morning show is concerned. This is somebody I see every day. I speak to on a daily basis. Never did I get any form of intelligence that he was going to become the running mate to Honorable Alan John Kujo Chairman. None of us here got wind of that information. I can tell you categorically. I'm stating this for a fact. But on Wednesday, Alan Chairman himself made that announcement when he went to file at the Electoral Commission. And there's been a lot of commentary on this decision by the leader of the Movement for Change. Why so? Why so? Why the commentary? Like I told you, even me, I'm surprised. I didn't expect it. As are we all. We all did not expect that such a decision was going to be taken. But why is that? Why are we surprised? Why? Why were we taken by surprise? I'm the host of this show, so
you get to take the first bite.
I'm the host of the show, so perhaps the surprise for me was the fact that this is somebody who wasn't a member of the Movement for Change. Kwame was no member of the Movement for Change. Of course, he had spoken about their policies. He had had the opportunity to interview Honorable Alan Chairman on his show. I've forgotten the name of the show. Alan Speaks. He time and again interviewed him on Alan Speaks. But never did any of us suspect that that sort of conversation between him and Alan was going to lead to something else. So it happened. And for me, that was a surprise. I didn't see this coming. I didn't see it coming at all. I did not. But let me take your initial thoughts on this, and I want us to be as brief as possible. I'm going to start with Ruben for the very fact that he didn't get the opportunity to speak on Galamsey, but he should start this one. Can he be brief for me on the nomination of Elijah Kwame Osu? You see, before you even come in, we all here know that Kwame's name is Elijah. But when it came to the issue of the running mate, he had to remove this name from his portmanteau and then bring it out. So Elijah Kwame Osudanso Esquire is now running mate nominee to Alan Chairman. Your initial thoughts?
Well, it's a reality we've all woken up to. On that fateful day, we saw Kwame on telly doing most of what was expected of him, because we know that he hosted Alan Speaks, and he gave the presidential candidate of the Movement for Change and Alliance for Revolutionary Change to give us a fair idea of his policies, what was contained in his great transformational plan, that if he's given the nod come December 7, 2024, Ghanaians would expect that change they've been yearning for all this while. Then, lo and behold, he was nominated as the vice presidential candidate. I think I would have to look at this issue from both sides of the coin. Looking at how youthful our population is, you can easily contemplate that in the next 5 to 10 years, most of these youth who are disillusioned or disenchanted because they don't have decent and sustainable means of livelihood might end up seeking greener pastures elsewhere, and that is the reality we've woken up to. Ideally, you would expect that youth who would make sure that they put themselves in an advantageous positions to occupy recognizable and respectable roles now take delight in sports betting, which shouldn't be the case. So, for Mr. Elijah Kwame Usudanso Esquire, his nomination comes as a sort of relief for the youth who feel that he's going to articulate their views and is going to make sure that he'll contribute to quota so far as charting Ghana's forward march is concerned. But if you look at the other side of the coin, some political watchers are saying that his nomination can be best described as a diplomatic somersault. They claim it's a strategic miscalculation because if you look at Mr. Alormasor Martin, looking at his policies, he would have opted for either Dr. Abu Sakara or Honorable Boniface Abubakar Sadiq, who could be better options. Because besides their track record, politically they've been there, so they have what it takes to partner him. But he decided to settle on a youthfully vibrant Mr. Kwame Usudanso. These political pundits have made this prediction based on the fact that once Mr. Alormasor Martin has left the fold of the NPP and now finds himself with the Movement for Change or the Alliance for Revolutionary Change, there was going to be a split so far as the votes were concerned in the Ashanti and Eastern regions. And these are two regions which are deemed strongholds of the ruling or governing NPP. So from that angle, people can make that point. But in 2011, when Barack Hussein Obama II was here on a historic visit, he said Africa was not in dire need of strong men, but institutions. And now there's a new paradigm shift. We've entrusted power to gerontocrats who have failed us woefully. So the youth who have prepared themselves say they should be given the opportunity. Yeah, you can take a cue from Senegal, the Basiru Diomaye Faye and the Ousmane Sonko, chemistry. I don't think it's too late, because as the late Daniel Arap Moi had wished, he said he had wanted to hand over the destiny of Kenya to a young person, and that wish was not fulfilled. But from where I sit, I think the youth of Africa are wide awake, because if you look at what is going on in the continent so far as governance is concerned, you realize that the old order is gradually fading out. Now you go to Cameroon, you have head of state who is about 90 plus, is going to stand elections next year. Look at neighboring Cote d'Ivoire, good old Alassane Ouattara is in there. If you go to Togo, you have a president who was born on June 6, 1966. He's been in power since 2005, and he's still at the helm of affairs. But the question we keep asking is, what attributes have these people brought on board? Have they turned rhetoric into reality? If they haven't, that is why we still find ourselves in a quagmire. So if the youth are wide awake, then the opportunity should be given to them to prove their mettle or worth.
Right.
And with the nomination of Kwame Usudanso, I think it's strategically on the part of Mr. Alormasor Martin.
Right.
But to the political watchers, they have a different opinion.
Right, thank you, Ruben Ado. Greg?
Bless. There's a general rule in law, the rules of natural justice, personal bias. That says when a person has any bias, whether it's personal, pecuniary, the person need not be a judge in their own cause. I think it's nemo judex in causa sua, no man shall be a judge in his own case or something. So in this case, as I sit here, I am more or less a judge in a case involving a man I have had the honor of working with for the past 4 years. And I must say, over the past 4 years, I've been one of the closest persons together with, I think, you and Jay, who have worked very closely to him. And I've learned a lot from him. So it might sound rich if I sit here to, wax lyrical about him. It's only normal. But then also, who best can this describe what Kwame epitomizes rather than the likes of us? Over the past 4 years, I've seen a man who has been on a trajectory, a man who has, jumped from one field to another and has excelled at these. I think I was in primary 6, that is somewhere 2008, 2009, when his hit song was making waves. Yeah. I think I was in class 6 then. And so growing up and seeing such a person in such a field which is not most of the time deemed too much academical, make that leap, that giant leap into no mean a field than into law, distinguish himself quite creditably, going on to achieve honors in London, University of Law, and then Rwanda, and then the revered Ghana
School of Law.
Law School, the revered. I mean, I know people who are brains, people whose IQ level are off the roof, and then they enter that school and it's demeaning. It's people who have worked so hard to achieve excellence in the field of law enter that school, and if they are deemed as dimwits, well, because they could not pass through the school. And so it tells you the caliber of person Kwame is. And so when I hear comments about the fact that Alan went for someone who used to sing, someone who is a field artist,
that one comes out of a place of ignorance.
Exactly. Now, for any Ghanaian out there, go through the history of running meat, at least under this dispensation. Go to, I think the only one who was a consummate one was Aka Ruben, if I'm not wrong.
92.
Yes. J.E. Mills was not a politician. J.E. Mills was an academic. He was a law lecturer at Legon. In fact, he's one of the best company law lecturers that school has ever had. And then he then went to have a stint with IRS, which today is GRA. And then you look at Baumia. He was not a politician. He was a technocrat. You look at Emisata, a technocrat.
Yeah.
So if today we're having a person who has transitioned from music to media to law, deputizing no mean a person than Alan Tremartin, I think it's commendable, and it's a client call to any young person in Ghana that no matter the field you find yourself, when you commit your resources to bettering yourself, a time will come where that hard work will be rewarded massively, and the whole world will be a testament to what you have been able to achieve through that hard work.
Thank you very much, Greg. Finally, let me come to Justice Appiah on this.
According to the 2021 population census, Ghana has a population of about 31 million people. And based on that data, about 35% are children from 0 to 14 years. 38% are young people from 15 to 35 years. And then you have, old men and all of that, that also formed, the other portion of the figures that I have. I can confidently tell you that Ghana is a youthful country. I mean, if I say youthful country, it's a country that has a lot of its, that has a lot of young people.
Has a youthful population.
Youthful population. Let me put it that way. And now, you have all the political parties, especially the major parties, NDC and MPP, always either going for old men as, flag bearers of a party, or old men as running mates to these flag bearers of various political parties. They've all, in one way or the other, included youth policies, what they intend to do for the youth and all of that. But we've never seen them walk the talk until Alan Kyerematen nominated Kwame Osu-Danso, a 40-year-old man, as the running mate to, for him or to him. And so, if you ask me, I think this is a wake-up call for other political parties to get to know that yes, it is about time that opportunities must be given to the youth. It is about time we move away from, the old ways of doing things where you have 80-something years old president, you have 90-something years old president who is unable to do anything. Here in Africa, we've seen situations where somebody is even dying on the seat. The person still wants to be there. The person wants to hold on to power. NDC talks about youth manifesto, youth policy, and all of that. They went and nominated a 72-year-old woman as their running mate. With all due respect to Nana Poku-Agyeman, I'm not looking down on her or anything. She's a fantastic person. I think that she deserves that position. But they could have at least given that opportunity to somebody who is a young person, if indeed they think about the youth and they have the youth at heart. You go to the New Patriotic Party, Napo is over 50 years, I guess.
Heading to 60 years.
Heading to 60 years, of course. And so, if you have Alan Kyerematen, who could have opted for, somebody older, but decided that, right, I would have to go in for somebody who is way younger, then I think that it is, Alan Kyerematen is trying to communicate a certain message to the other political parties and the country to let all of us know that the youth must be given opportunity. Kwame is not, in wrapping up, Kwame is not just, any youth. For Christ's sake, he's a lawyer. He has led, various initiatives, including his own Kwame Inspires. I was one time with Kwame when we taught various secondary schools across the country trying to, inspire the young ones. Apart from that, Kwame has the Forum for Accountable Governance, where he champions, issues that have to do with the youth and all of that.
Right.
And so I think that Alan Kyerematen choosing Kwame as his running mate is nothing but something that inspires the youth, something that tells us that, listen, the youth can also do it. We need to give them that opportunity, and kudos to Alan Kyerematen for doing that.
All right, and kudos to Kwame Osu-Danso on his nomination as a running mate to the leader and founder of the Movement for Change, Honorable John Allan Kwadwo Kyerematen. A huge feather in his cap, that is. All of us at Pan African Television are very excited for this colossal feat. Let's go for a short breather. We return with that conversation on the manifestos of the various political parties. Do stay. Right, welcome back. It's still election focus live here on Pan-African Television with yours sincerely, Koku Alormasor, and my fellow discussants. I have Ruben Ado, who is a news editor here at Pan-African Television. Also Justice Apia, who is the head of news and hosts your favorite evening political program, Hot News, and then Gregory Amwa, who is our parliamentary correspondent. Away from the conversations that we have had, Galamsey, the running mate of the Movement for Change, KOD, we are now looking at the various manifestos of the political parties, and specifically we are looking at health. Health is so important in every country. Your human resource is essential, but you can only have your human resource put out their best when they are healthy. And oftentimes I think we've heard that axiom that the best gift that you can give to your family, to your nation, to your loved ones is a healthy you. So health is crucial. It is so important. And let me also mention that, of course, the various political parties have seen it worthy to have a whole policy on this particular sector of the Ghanaian economy. So there's a whole policy from these political parties on that. I'll quickly run you through what the NPP, NDC, hopefully the Movement for Change, have as far as their health policies are concerned. There are some political parties that haven't come out with a manifesto yet. For instance, the PNC do not have a manifesto yet. The CPP do not have a manifesto yet. I haven't seen any manifesto from the Great Union Movement, which is GUM. They actually placed Ghana Union Movement. They placed third in the last elections. I've not seen any manifesto from Ayarige's APC. But so we shall make do with the ones we have here. So we are looking at healthcare delivery and pandemic preparedness. Ensure availability, and this one is from the ruling administration, the New Patriotic Party. Ensure availability of all hours quality healthcare provision at the primary level by scaling up of the network of practice, including model health centers. Complete the ongoing Agenda 111 projects to ensure that all that all districts will have hospitals as primary referral centers. Complete all regional hospitals under Agenda 111 to serve as specialist referral centers for all new regions without regional hospitals. Complete the maternity and children's block at Konfuanochi Teaching Hospital and the Kolibu Teaching Hospital maternity block, in addition to the ongoing sub-specialist centers within all teaching hospitals. Establish new sub-specialist centers in teaching hospitals. Create a friendly environment for breastfeeding mothers by ensuring that hospitals, workplaces, and other public places have rooms for breastfeeding to improve child survival. These are some of the policy initiatives by the New Patriotic Party, as you can see boldly captured there on your screens. Now let's move away from that quickly. Let's look at that of the NDC. It should be displayed on the screen as well. Introduce the Food for Health initiative to educate the public on the health and nutritional benefits of indigenous Ghanaian foods. Implement a national vector control program and promote sustainable sanitation practices in collaboration with assemblies, the private sector, and the Ghana Malaria Program. Please, can we take this one off? We are currently looking at that of the National Democratic Congress. Collaborate with research institutions to increase surveillance and monitoring of health data and produce periodic public health alerts. Collaborate with scientific and industrial research institutions to provide periodic, I think the remainder of the sentence, it's an incomplete sentence. Then increasing access to mental health care, review and integrate mental health into primary health care, commence the establishment of a mental health hospital in the northern sector and refurbish existing mental health hospitals, resource the Accra and Pantine psychiatric hospitals to enhance their capacity to provide comprehensive mental health care services. And also it is instructive to know that all of these political parties have said so much about the National Health Insurance Scheme. So for instance, we have the National Democratic Congress saying that, look, if they are able to annex the presidency, then what happens is that any Ghanaian who has attained the retirement age would be able to access free primary health care. So when we talk about free primary health care, it means that the CHIPS compounds, these CHIPS compounds would render or offer free health care services to our older people. So that is one. And we have the polyclinics. So the polyclinics would also offer free health care to the older generation or to our old folks. Then it means that it is when you come to the community hospitals and the regional hospitals, that is where you would have to pay. That is what I know about the National Democratic Congress's policy. But I took time to look at the 2016 manifesto of the New Patriotic Party. And it was just today, but I briefly read what they had on health. And it was around that time, before they came to power, it was around that time that we had the Ebola epidemic in some parts of, not Ghana, I think it was in Cote d'Ivoire. I don't know if it was in Burkina Faso. It was in Sierra Leone. And so that actually inspired them to quickly create something in terms of we're attacking issues of such nature when it comes to epidemics. Unbeknownst to the New Patriotic Party that when it comes to power, and it would eventually win power, they won power in 2016, and then in March of 2020 we faced something greater than than a pandemic, than an epidemic. It was a pandemic, COVID-19 for that matter. Now, so if there was any form of preparation towards, if we had even put in measures to fight an epidemic, then it means that we would have been better placed to at least contain, the coronavirus. At least we would have been able to do that. But clearly that wasn't the case. Then issues in terms of infrastructure came up. I'm sure you all are aware. That triggered a whole conversation about constructing 111 hospitals, and I can say authoritatively that there is no way that this administration, that's 82 days plus 30 days, that should give you some 112 days until it leaves office, to 112 days to complete 111 hospitals. I do not see that happening. But you have listened to some of the policy initiatives that I've told you about, and I'm starting with you, Greg, on the issue in relation to health. Have you been able to access all these manifestos? Which one of them tickles your fancy?
Well, I think they both go quite big on the area of health, because health is at the core of the life of every Ghanaian, and so it's one area that they've both gone big. And I think the issues of health in Ghana is in three folds: equipment, infrastructure, and access. Now we lack equipment. Now we also lack infrastructure. So in the places where they even have this infrastructure, they do not have it in large quantities, or for the want of a better word, they do not have much accommodation to take up or to shield the masses who troop into them. And then there's also the issue of access. Now, Agenda 111 was meant to solve this issue. The last time the health minister appeared before, I think, the Assurances Committee of the House, if my memory serves me right, he said about 27 to 28 of them will be completed by end of year. Initially, I think it was August. In fact, the timelines have been moving. We heard by the end of 2020, by March 2022, and it came to 2023, it came to August this year, it came to this month, and now we are hearing it might be end of year. I think health is one issue we do not have to politicize. We can deal with issues of the economy, we can deal with issues of sports, but when it comes to cogent issues like education and health, I believe significant resources need to be committed to this. I mean, I had the honor of touring, I think, Kolebu last 2 weeks with the ranking member on health, the Honorable Akando. And could you believe that the surgical block, they did not have a functioning elevator when we got there? Now, when we went there and it made news, 5 hours later, it was fixed. Now, the next day, we went there again. Now, the radiology block had no functioning elevator. Now, what killed me was even the maternity block. Maternity block. There were no, in fact, when you go into the elevator and you press floor 6 and you are up there and you press, let's say, floor 8, it takes me to floor 8. In fact, when I press floor 6, it will be stuck until Ruben on floor 8 presses floor 8. Then it takes me to Ruben. Now, just imagine if a woman in labor is in such an equipment, what happens? So I believe there are very rich ones, as we've read. The issue has always been with commitment, sloganeering. We go big now, but for Noguchi, can you wonder what would have happened in COVID?
Yeah.
But for Noguchi. And so I think there has to be some expediency. There has to be pressure on government. And then whichever government takes over from the incumbent government, being it the NPP or NDC, they should also commit resources to completing abandoned projects. And that should be one area. Because I've also taught, is it Seyua? Bro, it's a big facility and it's just sitting idle. It could serve multitudes of persons in need of healthcare. Afari, same thing. Now, assuming the NDC comes, one may assume that Agenda 111, if we are not careful, might suffer the same fate on account of political expediency. And so we are not going anywhere as a country. There are no beds, there are no equipment, there are no infrastructure, there's no access. So the area of healthcare is in tatters, and it is high time we stop this cheap politics and then commit significant resources to ensuring that there's an overhaul of it so that the average Ghanaian can have access to quality healthcare when that need arises.
Right, thank you very much. Justice, what have been your expectations when it comes to the health sector? I'm sure you've seen the various manifestos of these political parties. Do they meet your expectation, especially when the point has already been established that this isn't a sector to toy with? This is not a sector to be politicized.
Yes, to some extent. There's a saying that a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. And so if you have a significant number of your population healthy, it tells you that productivity will go high and the country tends to benefit from that. Unfortunately, that is not the situation here in Ghana. It's quite unfortunate that in recent times you may even go to hospital and you are told you are turned back because there are no beds. I mean, it's so sad for situations like this to be happening. And so it's a good thing for the president to start the Agenda 111 project, because at least that gives us some significant number of hospitals and all of that. But my major problem with the current dispensation is that they met a lot of abandoned health projects. One would have expected that they commit some amount of monies in completing those projects at least before other ones are commenced. Unfortunately, you have told parts of the country with a health committee, and you've seen a lot of these projects, health projects, abandoned. You know, a lot in the Ashanti region, even here in the Greater Accra region and Central region and other places. And so it's a problem. And you talked about political expediency. I would want to start my own to claim the credit. I won't finish something somebody else had started. Yeah. It's a problem for us. This is a country where, bless, chronic diseases like kidney failure, liver, and all those things are now killing a lot of Ghanaians, including children. Go to the dialysis centers, and you'll be shocked. We've done reports and all of that on some of these issues. So I thought that the various political parties who are seeking for a mandate could have been serious with some of these issues. But well, both the NDC and MPP have captured some of these issues in their manifesto. If you check that of the NDC, Sustainable Funding for Health Services, is that they will establish the Ghana Medical Care Trust Fund to support the cost of care for persons with chronic diseases such as kidney failure, dialysis, cancers, and heart diseases. This is only put on paper. What shows that they will be committed if they are given the nod for us to see this. We've seen a lot of political promises that never saw the light of day. A lot of political promises, manifesto promises that were not implemented at the end of the day. I would have loved that, just like they have indicated in this document, if they are given the mandate, they would implement this policy. If you come to that of the New Patriotic Party, they have a similar thing, and this is what they said. We shall conclude the tissue and organ donation, storage and transplantation policy, pass a law to regulate the service, and make these life-saving services available. You recall that at Kolebu and some other centers where people have been going for their dialysis, it got to a point they said they were increasing the amount from, I think, 400 Ghana cedis to 700 or something. Yes.
Per session.
It took Parliament to, wade into this conversation in order to have government subsidize the cost of dialysis in this country. And so, if you are in government for 8 years, and we've seen how some of these chronic diseases are affecting the good people of Ghana, it got to a point, dialysis, prices have had to increase. Access in itself. Yeah. So you would want to question some of these things that they put on paper, because if there's anything to be done about such a situation, it is now. At least let's see some commitment. As I said, you were in Parliament. It took a whole lot of debate back and forth before they have been able to subsidize, the prices for people who are having some of these chronic diseases. And so I hope and pray that just as they've put it on paper, both the NDC and MPP, after December 7, whoever wins the election would see to it that the policies as captured in these documents would be implemented. But if you ask me, Agenda 111, you know that Agenda 111 wasn't a manifesto promise. It was a promise made by the president when we were hit with COVID-19. And he thought that we were not prepared enough as a country to be able to contain some of these, is it a pandemic or?
That's a pandemic.
A pandemic, so pandemics like COVID-19 and all of that. And COVID really exposed us as a country. COVID really exposed us as a country. And so he saw the need to establish hospitals in all the regions across the country, all the districts across the country.
About 90, I think 96.
I think 96, and then he added some regional hospitals. So if we are to get
some of them in
hospitals in all the regions, then it means that it will take us to
mental health institutions.
Yes.
Well.
So it will take us to 111 hospitals. It would have been nice if this government is able to complete, but we have just 3 months into the election. Even if they perform magic.
3 months less.
Less than 3 months, of course.
82 days.
So even if they perform magic, I don't think that they will be able to finish these projects. But we can only plead, we can only beg other political parties that are also contesting in this election, whoever emerges the winner should pay critical attention to some of these projects so that at the end of the day, at least we'll have a healthy nation where its people would benefit from some of these, policies and some of these, measures other parties have decided to put in place and embark on.
Ruben?
Yes, I will preface my submission with a quote from the late Mahatma Gandhi, who once said that it is health which is real wealth and not pieces of gold or silver. So as Ghanaians, we have unfettered access to quality healthcare delivery. And talking about party manifestos, the feasibility of these manifestos is what should be bothering our minds, because the NDC will come and go, likewise the MPP. But let's ask ourselves, our health system, do we require an overhaul to make it bearable for Ghanaians? Because besides the economy and education, which are utmost priorities, one critical area we need to pay attention to is our healthcare system. And the Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party, Mr. Richard Ayagba, was involved in a road crash. Thankfully, he survived. And after he was discharged, he came out with a statement that per what he saw, he realized that our health system required an overhaul. It's all based on the fact that we haven't committed resources enough to make it better for Ghanaians. We have issues with COVID when it struck in March of 2020. We can also cite the renal crisis. And even with the Agenda 111, which, is politically, tailored towards the NPP, we can say that there have been issues with infrastructure, giving out land to make sure that these projects are completed ahead of schedule. And I can cite so many examples. There's been the public-private investment in the health sector delivery. I would seize this opportunity to commend Dr. Said Deraz and his Eurojet group. The government has also made certain inroads, but we still haven't committed enough resources to expand healthcare delivery in our country. Unfortunately, we are reeling from the devastating effects of galamsey, and our livelihoods are being threatened because of the mercury and cyanide used by these galamseyers. We have babies with deformities and all that. So we need to pay a critical attention to our health system, and I believe that moving forward we can make significant inroads, because these parties will come up with lofty promises, but when COVID struck, it exposed all of us. When Ebola broke out, I know there was a deliberate and conscious effort on the part of somebody to make sure that going into the future, if there is an outbreak of an epidemic or pandemic, we'll be able to contain the situation. Then unfortunately COVID came, and here we found ourselves in a quagmire. But looking at what I have known since the days of late Jerry Rawlings, there was a mantra, primary health care for all by the year 2000. From that time through to where we find ourselves, can we say that significantly we've made a meaningful impact so far as healthcare delivery is concerned? I think the answer is an emphatic no. So both the NDC and NPP would have to sit up, because we are sick and tired of the mere paperwork. They need to turn rhetoric into reality. Look at the situation at Kolebu, like you rightly pointed out, a surgical ward without an elevator. I'm not sure if in Gajesberg in his grave would be happy about that. Because besides Konfanoche and the 37 military hospitals and other health facilities, we thought that one of our premier healthcare facilities was Kolebu.
Yeah.
But if you wake up to hear some of these things, then you realize that we haven't paid critical attention to fully investing in our healthcare delivery and making it work. You are talking about pensioners, people who have retired. I don't think they are the only people who can profit from healthcare delivery in terms of the government bearing the cost. I think it should be accessible to all and sundry. Because when you go beyond the shores of Ghana, some countries have placed premium on education to the extent that it is free right from primary through to university. So if these countries have made these giant strides, why can't we do same for a country which is endowed with innumerable resources? I think that we've arrived this far, and moving forward, we cannot sit for these politicians to take us for granted. They need to really sit up and make sure that these things are worked on, because the mere paperwork is something we'll not look forward to going ahead into the future.
Right. So yeah, and I'm coming to you, Justice, on this one. So, I mean, there are manifestos.
Yes.
Manifestos are supposed to be policy documents that talks about the aspirations and goals of political parties for the country should they assume office. But have we done a good job at questioning these political parties about the hows, instead of what are you going to do, instead of what are you going to do? Have we done a good job at asking how are you going to do it? Because when the president came out to say that, look, I'm going to construct 111 hospitals, we all knew I knew it was going to be impossible. 111 hospitals in 2 years, and they gave us timelines.
Yes,
in 2 years. In 2 years, it's been 4 years. It's been nearly 4 years since.
When he promised the 90 something, he said he was going to do it in 1 year.
Yeah. So, but we don't have up to 10 Agenda 111 hospitals.
Not even one.
So instead of just throwing numbers at us, like say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, then I mean just for vote catching, rhetoric. Isn't it high time we started asking how you are going to do it? Then it means that we are not taking things on a surface value.
It's true. I agree with you on that, because most of the times, if these political parties come out with their manifestos, we only look at it at the face level. We don't delve deeper into the things they are promising in order for us to, ask them very critical questions that would, inform people out there as to whether these are just manifesto promises, they are normal promises, they are just things that have been penned down without necessarily having a roadmap as to how they are going to be implemented and all that. I think most of the times we are only interested in what can you do. If we give you the mandate, what are you able to do? If they tell us what they are able to do or what they can do, I think that we must also go a step forward to interrogate some of these policies, how they intend to do it, because if you're coming up with a policy like Agenda 111, one of the few things we need to ask you is how you intend to finance it. What's the source of funding for that project? The president gave us 2 years. Nobody cares. Nobody even asked. I mean, the source of funding for the project, and we took it hook, line, and sinker. We are only waiting for this government to finish with those projects. As it stands now, not even one of that project has been completed.
Right. Thank you very much, Justice Appiah. We do not have so much time, but I'd want us to also quickly look at the conversation on health workers. It's so important. Once you are dealing with health issues, the very people at the forefront are the health workers, the nurses, the doctors, and all. I think all of us on this panel are in agreement that over the years we've seen a mass exodus of our health care professionals from Ghana to European shores for everything you can say, greener pastures, better conditions of service. But these are people who have legitimate reasons, to leave the country. So for instance, you are looking at the NDC, they say they are going to expand access to nursing training institutions. This is one of the things that they promised in their 2020 manifesto. Even in 2016, they actually cancelled the nursing trainee allowances, and with the hope that they are going to expand and then, employ more nurses. Right now, we do have a backlog. There's a backlog of allowances that this government also has to pay, but it wants to continue paying the allowances. It wants to do that in their next administration. It wants to continue doing it. What is the way forward, especially with that? Ruben, quickly, your thought. Just a minute on this one, I'll be glad.
I think that all health workers in this country deserve better conditions of service. Because once you swear the Hippocratic Oath, you are supposed to abide by it. And you've rightly pointed out there is a backlog. I know the government has an engagement with Bahamas. So as I speak, some of our health professionals are there. Okay. But besides the Bahamas situation, looking at where Ghana finds itself, I think most of our health workers would deem themselves better. That is, if they happen to work beyond the shores of Ghana, because, there is nothing to motivate you. You are done with school, even postings to your place of work becomes a problem. It's always shrouded in secrecy and mystery. So even if you are employed, you realize that the conditions under which you work are so demotivating that you feel like going beyond the shores of Ghana to make a better life for yourselves. And for all our health professionals, this is not to put a slur on their reputation. I believe that they constitute or what we call the essential services. So once you are a health worker, your role is like a teacher who is imparting knowledge to kids in the classroom or in the lecture hall. But if you swear that Hippocratic Oath that at all times you are going to make sure that every Ghanaian who is brought to you for medical care is fairly treated, then I think they would also have to take a stance as to whether they are dedicated to their course of work, or because the economic conditions are unbearable, they would have to flee this country for greener pastures. But all these things boils down to policy. Policy drives the success of any nation. If government is in power for maybe 4 years, maybe the policies they are going to draft for healthcare delivery will not inure to the benefit of the citizenry and the health workers as a whole. So we need to critically look at the policies we've outlined or tabled for the health sector, and once we are able to make sure that these policies are well addressed, it will go a long way in addressing some of the health concerns we have in this country. I vividly recall last year when we had a health screening, I approached the health team and I made a suggestion that we have a day set aside to honor and recognize members of the teaching profession. Why can't we do the same for those in the medical profession? I think it's something they need to take a critical look at.
Right. Our time is up. Our time is up. I'm being prompted. Our time is up. We need to go. But I want to thank you so much. I don't know. No, please. I'm sorry. Our time is up. We just have some 10 seconds to wrap up. Thank you so much, Gregory Amwa. Thank you, Justice Appiah. Thank you, Ruben Ado. We'll do this again tomorrow. We are coming your way with the strongholds. We shall be looking at the strongholds of the various political parties. My name is Koku Alormasor. I've been your host on today's edition, I beg your pardon, of Election Focus. Live Resto Lunch. They are located at Alormasor. Make sure you go there.